Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Donald Trump defeats Nikki Haley in South Carolina's Republican contest, extending his winning streak as he marches towards a third consecutive presidential nomination. US British forces carry out fresh strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. Houthis target US ship in Gulf of Aden. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in Mann Ki Baat program at 11 a.m. today. It will be the 110th episode of the monthly radio program. And England eyed the lead in the Ranchi test against India. Spinner Bashir's 4 for 83 gives 3 Lions a golden opportunity to take control of the 4th test match. Donald Trump took the victory in South Carolina's Republican primary, defeating Nikki Haley in her home state. This makes it his third consecutive victory in the primary following Iowa, New Hampshire and Nevada. Trump is now closer towards a third consecutive presidential nomination and a rematch with Democratic President Joe Biden. DD India correspondent Caroline Malone joins us from South Carolina. Caroline, good morning. Let us get the latest from you on the results first.
Well, hi there. Yes, absolutely. So, in fact, Nikki Haley has just started speaking in Charleston Place right behind me. This is a historic town, part of South Carolina, where Nikki Haley has been hard campaigning over the last few days. But of course, as you're hearing there as well, it looks like Donald Trump has very much won this election. Although only just less than 40% of the vote counted so far, he is certainly looking like he's going to get the majority of the delegates. The delegates are the number of votes, essentially, that help him go forward to be the ultimate presidential candidate for the Republican Party. But Nikki Haley is not accepting defeat overall. As part of her speech that she's making just behind me, she's been saying that she is a woman of her word and that she will not give up this fight. And we know, of course, that she is planning to campaign even further. She's going to be campaigning in 7 different places over the next week to 10 days. That's before Super Tuesday, which is where there are another multiple places where elections happen, that then delegates are counted towards the ultimate Republican Party presidential nomination. Nikki Haley's also been making reference towards her mum, who's originally from India, and speaking about the importance of her family. Her family were with her actually in a lot of her campaign events and were with her when she voted actually on Saturday as well. Her mum was in a wheelchair being rolled around with her and her son. So we saw clearly that family was important to her there, and she was exercising her right to vote because this is her home state of South Carolina. But it looks like Donald Trump is going to sweep away with a victory once again. He did so in Iowa, he did so in New Hampshire, and it looks like he will be getting the majority of the delegates in this state. He's already declared victory. He said it was a sweeping victory for him in South Carolina. He was speaking, in fact, at a Conservative Party conference in Washington, D.C. just earlier. He's also been talking about potential contenders for vice president. So he's really looking forward and ahead to the future where he could potentially be the person who is fighting for the presidency alongside Joe Biden. And it could be a rematch of those 2 men who were fighting for the presidency just 4 years ago. Now, in terms of vice presidential candidates for Donald Trump, they actually took a straw poll at the Conservative conference, and 2 names came up to the forefront. One of them was Vivek Ramaswamy, also with Indian roots. He was talking at the conference, as was the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem. She was saying that there are 2 types of Americans now, people that love us and people that hate us. She was making reference there to the type of work that the current President Joe Biden has been doing. Overwhelmingly, people in this state are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about how they think Joe Biden has tanked the economy, and also about border issues. Those are the two items that people really are concerned about, and they see Donald Trump as the person who is a strong leader who can help fix it for them.
All right. Also, let us know more as to why there is still so much support for Trump despite the numerous court cases.
Well, absolutely. So, he has something like 90 indictments against him. He's facing all these criminal and civil cases, some of which are already playing out in different states across the United States. He's due to be in court on the first criminal case in March, and that is going to be in New York, where he is, facing charges of fraud and hiding hush money payments against an adult movie star. But the key part of all of this, and it shows in the polls here in South Carolina, the majority of people that voted for him, it doesn't stop them voting for him ultimately. They either don't believe that these charges should be put against him, they believe it's unfair, they believe that they're trumped up, to use that phrase, and he's been saying that in his campaigning as well, that this is only, done because politically the Democrats don't want to see him in office, and therefore it's a way of trying to get him out of the race entirely. So really, that has been the focus of people here. 7 out of 10 people saying, even if he was found guilty in any of these charges, that they would still want him to be the president. So really quite an unusual situation where you have most likely the Republican candidate for president for this year could be charged with cases, but that wouldn't stop people in the United States, certainly in South Carolina, from wanting him to hold office and be in the White House again.
All right, Caroline, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. The US and UK have launched missile strikes against more than a dozen Houthi targets in Yemen in response to the increase in attacks by the terrorist organization on cargo ships. American and British fighter jets hit 18 Houthi sites across 8 locations in Yemen, including underground weapons and missile storage facilities, air defense systems, radars, and a helicopter. The strikes have so far failed to halt Houthis' attacks, which has upset global trade and raised shipping rates. The counteroffensive came after Iran-backed militia group carried on an airstrike on a US-flagged, owned and operated oil tanker in the Gulf of Aden. The Yemen-based Houthis claimed that they targeted a United States fuel tanker in the Gulf of Aden with an unspecified number of naval missiles. The spokesperson of the group stated that the US vessel Tom Thor was attacked on Saturday, making no mention of damage done to the ship or the crew. The Houthis say they have been attacking shipping lanes in solidarity with the Palestinians in the Gaza conflict.
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces, with the help of God Almighty, carried out a military operation in which they targeted the American oil ship Tom Thor in the Gulf of Aden with a number of naval missiles, while the Air Force targeted a number of American warships in the Red Sea with a number of drones.
Western leaders arrived in Kiev on Saturday in a show of solidarity as the country marked the 2nd anniversary of Russia-Ukraine war. The Prime Ministers of Canada and Italy signed security deals with Ukraine, which has recently suffered setbacks on the eastern front lines. While out on the streets, hundreds of people gathered at Kiev's St. Sophia Square to demand the release of Ukrainian soldiers in Russian captivity. Megumi Lim has more from Kiev.
The Prime Ministers of Italy, Canada and Belgium, along with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, arrived in Kiev on Saturday in a show of support for Ukraine as the country enters its 3rd year of full-scale war with Russia. The leaders visited the Hostomel airport, which was the site of intense battles at the start of the invasion as Russian forces tried to capture Kiev. Von der Leyen said Europe will be providing more aid, more ammunition, more air defense systems and more training for Ukraine's troops. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni signed a 10-year bilateral security agreement with Zelensky, along with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who signed a similar deal pledging $2.2 billion in financial and military assistance for this year. Out on the streets, hundreds of people gathered to demand the release of Ukrainian soldiers in Russian captivity. Many of these soldiers were captured in the southern city of Mariupol when it fell to Russian forces during the early weeks of the invasion. Even as countries pledge more support, Ukraine has in recent weeks suffered setbacks on the battlefield. Russia's capture of the devastated eastern city of Avdiivka last week has emboldened Moscow's troops to intensify their attacks all along the 1,000-kilometer-long front line. As Kiev waits for crucial military aid from the United States, its troops are running out of ammunition, and people in frontline towns are now fearing further Russian advances. Megumi Lim in Kiev reporting for DD India.
Hundreds of people gathered in St. Petersburg in Russia on Saturday for an exhibition showcasing the country's military power. The two-day event, dubbed Russians Change the World, opened on Russia's Army Day on Friday. Tanks, ammunition and other military hardware were put on display. The festival coincided with the 2-year anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The body of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died unexpectedly in prison 9 days ago, was handed to his mother on Saturday in the Arctic city of Salakhed. Navalny's mother, Lyudmila, earlier said that Russian investigators were refusing to release his body from a morgue in Salakhed until she agreed to lay him to rest without a public funeral. While Navalny's team mentioned his death because of natural causes, as per his death certificate, leaders of the group of 7 major democracies in a statement urged Russia to fully clarify the circumstances around Navalny's death and to free all unjustly detained prisoners. French President Emmanuel Macron spent the entire day at the annual agricultural fair on Saturday as angry farmers heckled him and scuffled with police. A group of French farmers stormed into the fair ahead of a planned visit by President Macron amid anger over costs, red tape and green regulations. The protest delayed the opening of the show to the public by at least an hour. The Paris Farm Show, a major event in France attracting around 600,000 visitors over 9 days, is a political fixture where presidents and their opponents are expected to engage with the public. Farmers have been protesting across Europe, calling for better income and less bureaucracy and denouncing unfair competition from cheap imported goods. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted the achievements of his African National Congress as it heads into a tight race in May's election. Ramaphosa delivered the party's manifesto to thousands of ANC supporters in Durban on Saturday. The rally came as South Africa faces increasing poverty, unemployment and crime and a crippling electricity crisis. The ANC's biggest rivals are the Democratic Alliance, which is trying to build a coalition of smaller parties to cut into the ANC's majority, and the leftist Economic Freedom Fighters Party. South Africa will hold national and provincial elections on May 29th. There are more than 300 parties registered with the Electoral Commission, and the stage is set for 3 months of hot campaigning. Leaders of the regional bloc ECOWAS have agreed to lift economic sanctions imposed on Niger following a coup that toppled Mohamed Bazoum's government. But they are calling for the military-led government to release the deposed leader. Now, these were part of the resolutions reached at an extraordinary summit of ECOWAS heads of state in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Our correspondent Ajek Mangut reports on this.
The notice of withdrawal from ECOWAS by Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger were top on the agenda. ECOWAS says the decision to lift some of the sanctions it imposed on Niger, which takes immediate effect, follows humanitarian considerations. These include the reopening of land borders to allow trade, unfreezing of assets, and allowing flights to and from the country.
Closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger to be lifted. No-fly zone of all commercial flights to and from Niger is to be lifted. Suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS member states and Niger is to be lifted.
However, targeted political sanctions on Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso still remain in place.
On the withdrawal of the 3 countries, the authority takes note of the notifications by the 3 member states within the context of Article 91 of the 1993 ECOWAS revised treaty, and further urges the countries to reconsider the decision in view of the benefits that the ECOWAS member states and their citizens enjoy in the community.
ECOWAS has called on the three countries, which all recently experienced coups, to reconsider their decision to leave the organization. It says their withdrawal could have a huge impact on the immigration status of their citizens, disrupt projects and programs in the region worth $500 million, and affect jobs of more than 100 ECOWAS staff from these countries. ECOWAS has also called on the military leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger to come up with an acceptable transition timetable. Meanwhile, the political crisis in Senegal following the postponement of elections was also discussed at Saturday's summit. West African leaders called on all key players in Senegal to give priority to dialogue for free, fair and credible elections. Senegal's President Macky Sall says he will step down at the end of his tenure in April, but it's not yet clear if a new president could be elected before then. He's expected to hold talks with political leaders in the coming days. Ajak Mangut in Abuja, reporting for DD India.
Up next, we're in for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. A momentous day for people in Gujarat. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate projects to transform and boost connectivity and better healthcare and education. Meetings continue to be held to finalize the nuances of holding of simultaneous elections at the centre and state level in India. Next up, we tell you how Indian Army is dominating the Khelo India Winter Games in Gulmarg. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get you more updates. With an aim to inaugurate projects transforming and boosting connectivity, ensuring better healthcare and education in Dwarka and Rajkot, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Gujarat's Jamnagar late at night. There he received a rousing welcome from the people of the state. In Dwarka, Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation Sudarshan Setu, connecting Okha mainland and Beth Dwarka Island, built at a cost of around 980 crore rupees. It is the longest cable-stayed bridge in the country of around 203.2 kilometers. Sudarshan Setu will ease transportation and significantly reduce the time of devotees travelling between Dwarka and Beth Dwarka. Before the bridge's construction, pilgrims had to rely on boat transport to reach Beth Dwarka. This iconic bridge will also serve as a major tourist attraction of Devbhoomi Dwarka. Prime Minister will dedicate a pipeline project at Vadinar involving replacement of existing offshore lines, abandoning existing pipeline and manifold. Prime Minister will dedicate Rajkot, Okha, Rajkot, Jetalsar, Somnath and Jetalsar Vansjalya rail electrification projects to the nation. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone of widening of Dharoji, Jamkandona, Kalabat station of NH 927D, Regional Science Centre at Jamnagar and flue gas desulfurization system installation at Sikka Thermal Power Station, Jamnagar, will also be inaugurated, among others. At the public function in Rajkot, India's Prime Minister will inaugurate and dedicate it to the nation and also lay the foundation stone of multiple development projects worth more than 48,100 crore rupees, encompassing important sectors like health, road, rail, energy, petroleum and natural gas and tourism, among others. In a significant step towards strengthening tertiary health care in the country, Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation 5 All India Institute of Medical Sciences at Rajkot in Gujarat, Bhatinda in Punjab, Rai Bareli in Uttar Pradesh, Kalyani in West Bengal and Mangalagiri in Andhra Pradesh. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone and dedicate to the nation more than 200 healthcare infrastructure projects worth more than 11,500 crore rupees across 23 states and union territories. Prime Minister will also inaugurate the National Institute of Naturopathy named Nisarg Gram at Pune. During the event, Prime Minister will inaugurate and dedicate to the nation 21 projects of Employees State Insurance Corporation worth around 2,280 crore rupees. In a step to boost production of renewable energy in the region, Prime Minister will lay foundation stone of various renewable energy projects, including 300 megawatt Bhuj 2 solar power project, grid-connected 600 megawatt solar PV project, Khavra solar power project, 200 megawatt Dayapur 2 wind energy project, among others. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone of the new Mundra Panipat pipeline project worth over 9,000 crore rupees, strengthening the road and rail infrastructure in the region. Prime Minister will dedicate doubling of Surendranagar Rajkot rail line, 4-laning of Bhavnagar Talaja package 1 of old NH8E, Pipli Bhavnagar package 1 of NH 751. He will also lay the foundation stone of 6-laning with paved shoulder of Samkhiali to Santalpur section of NH 27, among others. And recalling his connection with Rajkot, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shared archives on his Twitter post. The Modi archive post recalls a special moment when exactly 22 years ago, on February 24, 2002, Narendra Modi stepped into the Gujarat legislature as an MLA for the first time and won a by-election from Rajkot 2 constituency. The Prime Minister posted on X, and I quote, "Rajkot will always have a very special place in my heart. It was the city of this people who put their faith in me, giving me my first ever electoral win. Since then, I have always worked to do justice to the aspirations of Janta Janardhan. It's also a happy coincidence that I will be in Gujarat, and one of the programs is being held in Rajkot, from where 5 aims will be dedicated to the nation."
આખરે રાજકોટે મને ધારાસભ્ય બનાવી દીધો. મેં રાજકોટના નાગરિકોને વિનંતી કરી હતી કે મને જરા કસીને બરાબર અગ્નિ પરીક્ષા કરીને મને ખબર નહોતી કે રાજકોટના મતદારો મને ડિસ્ટિંક્શન માર્ક આપશે. 15,000 કરતા વધારે મતોથી મને વિજય બનાવ્યો. આ દશકામાં બીજા પણ એક મુખ્યમંત્રીની ચૂંટણી થઈ હતી. મુખ્યમંત્રી ચૂંટણી લડ્યા. ભરપૂર જાતિવાદ, ભરપૂર શાસનનો દુરુપયોગ અને આખી ચૂંટણીને યુદ્ધ છાવણીમાં બદલી હતી. માંડ એ 13,000 પહોંચ્યા હતા. રાજકોટે મને લગભગ 15,000 મતે વિજય અપાવ્યો છે. સામાન્ય રીતે કોઈ સત્તાધીશ વ્યક્તિ ચૂંટણી લડે તો ચૂંટણી લડતા પહેલા પોતાને અનુકૂળ આખાએ સરકારી તંત્રનું માળખું ફેરવીને અધિકારીઓની ગોઠવણ કરતા હોય છે. શાયદ હિન્દુસ્તાનની લોકશાહીના ઇતિહાસમાં હું પહેલો મુખ્યમંત્રી છું કે જેણે રાજકોટમાં એક પણ અધિકારીમાં સરકારી અમલદારમાં ફેરફાર કર્યા વગર જે સ્થિતિમાં ચૂંટણી લડી તે સ્થિતિમાં ચૂંટણી લડી.
And also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad through his program Mann Ki Baat on a Sunday, that is today at 11 a.m. It will be the 110th episode of the monthly radio program by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The program will be broadcast on the entire network of Doordarshan. And let's talk of sports now. In cricket, Shoaib Bashir ripped the heart out of India's batting lineup to keep England on course for a handy first innings lead on day 2 of the 4th test in Ranchi on Saturday. The lanky off-spinner justified his selection for the match with figures of 4 wickets for 84 to restrict India to 219 for the loss of 7 wickets on a spiteful pitch where the ball often kept low. In Aden, form opener Yashasvi Jaiswal, who topped scored with 73, was done in by one such delivery. The hosts, who are 2-1 up in the 5-match series, finished the day trailing England by 134 runs. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us at in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.